There are categories of sins that are easy for us to not give much attention to. This can be, in large part, a result of the context and the culture in which we live. Sins that are a lot easier to let just slide. They can kind of just put up a facade. Oh, that's just not such a big deal. One author has referred to these kinds of sins as respectable sins. Sins like these: ungodliness, anxiety, discontentment, selfishness, worldliness. Sins that can be dismissed as peccadillos. Just little things, not something to have an exhortation about, not something to get all worked up over. Well, for this morning's exhortation, I want to draw attention to one such area of cultural respectability, shine light on one of these so-called peccadillos. So the exhortation this morning, church, is to avoid the snare of sports betting. Avoid the snare of sports betting. Gambling, it may not be explicitly or implicitly sinful in all circumstances. Al Mohler, he observes the following, saying, the entire enterprise of gambling is opposed to the moral worldview in God's world. Why is this? Why would gambling generally be opposed to the moral worldview held out to us, revealed in God's world? And why is it that I would exhort you to avoid the snare of sports betting in particular? 4 reasons. Sports betting is founded on coveting. Exodus 20:17 states it plainly. You shall not covet. The very foundation of sports betting is fostering an inordinate desire for money and the thrill of winning without skill or effort. It is based on this drive that resides in the human heart to covet that which we do not have. Second, sports betting is built on lies. Again, the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20, verse 16, you shall not bear false witness. The adage is true, the house always wins. A $150 billion industry didn't develop without the lie that you can make quick money. It's a lie that you're laying hold to and believing in that moment where you lay a bet down. 3, sports betting undermines work. 2 Thessalonians 3:10, if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. And the winnings that you gain, they are not a result of exercising dominion or fruitful labor, but instead sets the hook for that lie that we can eat without having to work. And 4th, sports betting is opposed to love. It's opposed to love. Jesus says in Mark 12:31 that the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. You may win your $20 wager on DraftKings, but in doing so, you contribute to an industry that disproportionately ravages the poor. Poor people are far more in a way likely to gamble in all kinds of ways, but in particular, sports betting. It's an industry that's taken advantage of them. You should call to mind Ecclesiastes 4:1 that we looked at last week. Again, I saw all of the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. It should be our impulse to love our neighbor as ourselves. This Proverbs, it warns us not only of explicit and implicit sins, but also of those snares that we can get caught up in. So, church, avoid the snare of sports betting.